Hello, YouTube. I know y'all shocked to be seeing this darn gone page. Even though she's out the race, I wanted to go over her updated plans, her policies nonetheless, because it seems like she also updated her whole website last minute since the last time we looked over it back in the summertime. But let's go specifically to the two things that I heard on the Roland Martin show about she had a plan for black people. Oh, she also added one for Pacific Islander and Asian Americans. I don't know how that was going. I don't think she was going to fare too good up against that compared to a Samoanian woman that darn gonna slammed her at the debates. Because y'all finally told me that Tulsi Gabbard is of Samoan descent from Hawaii, which hence why she has a lot of policies, based off of Hawaii. And we found that out during, part one of the 7-part series that I'm doing on Tulsi Gabbard. But here's the plans that they say she has for black people. Kamala's plans to stand up for black America, and she laid it out just like that. And Kamala's plans for health justice for black community. The problem with this is, see, Kamala was a little bit too late on this because people who actually were going to her platform early, she's the candidate that is, going in blackface, so to speak. We would think that she would have definitely had a black agenda. And you're saying that you're going to change all this, that, and the third. But when I went to your policies in June and July, I didn't see this. So you added this after July. And then I found out that you added it in September. So you've been in the debates since January. And you telling me it took you to September to come up with a plan specifically for black people? So that was already the strike one, honey. But let's get into her plans and see if maybe Cory Booker can, go ahead and get some of this if he doesn't already have it. Because I glossed over some of the policies and it was some stuff that Cory Booker already proposed. But let's see if she has some unique policies that he can, take on. Because, honey, it looked like he might be the second one to drop out. They talking about it might not be nothing but white people at the 6 darn gone debates. Yang has yet to qualify. And I told you, he's the best thing. He's economically amongst the best thing for us if Marion Williamson don't get the ticket. Marion Williamson, honey, she ain't seen the stage since the second damn debates. She ain't, black, but hell, she blacker in spirit than darn gone the two candidates that call themselves black that's running. And now the third one, President Barack Obama's darn gone ace boom, So now we got to bump darn gone Cory Booker from Barack Obama 2.0 to Barack Obama 3.0. But he has yet to qualify yet. So it's no darn gone people of color. No Hispanic, Julian Castro. He ain't been seen since like the 4th debates. No darn gone person of color in any capacity is qualified yet for the 6 debates. But maybe, one of them can darn gone take a part of, because I've always said that reparations should be in 2 parts. I said reparations should be economic restitution, actually 3 parts really, because you need the direct cash payments, you need a system of economic restitution, and you need criminal justice reform, exclusively targeting issues regarding black people being unjustly targeted by the police, especially since the FBI has confirmed that white nationalist groups have infiltrated law enforcement. So let's see if Kamala Harris, really addresses those points on that aspect. So going into Kamala's plan for health justice for communities. So it says, after a smallpox epidemic raged throughout formerly enslaved black communities in the post-Civil War South, Congress established the Medical Division of the Freedom Bureau, the nation's first federal health care program to address the public health crisis, but this inaugural program was doomed to fail. Despite a population of 4 million formerly enslaved people throughout the country, program officials sent only about $120 to serve Black communities in the South ignored the doctor's request for personnel and equipment and prematurely closed the over 40 hospitals they built. Okay, giving us a brief history lesson. Unfortunately, the story of systematic injustices Black communities face persists. After decades of intentional segregation and discriminatory lending practices, redline residual neighborhoods, Black Americans still live under the most segregated conditions. Segregated housing is associated with significantly higher incidence of cardiovascular diseases. Black families are much more likely to live with polluted air in the neighborhoods close to Superfund toxic waste sites. Black infant mortality has been at least 2.5 times greater than white infant mortality ever since we have recorded this data. And then it goes on to further say that there are no excuses for the staggering disparities. We must treat healthcare, high quality, affordable healthcare, as a right for all, not a privilege only for those who can afford it. We must too finally treat access to clean air and drinking water as a fundamental right. Now, I don't necessarily, but then again, I do see where she's coming from, because in lower income neighborhoods that is heavily populated with Black people, you can be put near, a processing plant or, a dog facility plant or something like that, which does affect our, air quality a lot more than other people. And also with the water, I told y'all in Fayetteville, they darn put some Gen X in our darn water, where we had been drinking bottled water for the longest, and filters and everything to this day. And that's throughout the whole Cape Fear River, which is populated heavily by Black towns. So she's on the money with this. As President Kamala will fight for health justice for Black communities across the country, she'll fight to end the Black maternity mortality crisis, pass Medicare for all, and radically combat climate change so that families now and for generations to come can thrive. How would she do it? Well, how would she do it? It's now past tense because she ain't no longer in it, but she mentioned this about passing Medicare for all, and this is all the benefits that it would have did. Then she also touches on affordable health care can also mean lower the cost of prescription drugs, which is what I've been saying. Let's not just focus on the Medicare for all, but let's also focus on the price gouging of drugs. Okay, one good thing as Attorney General, she has won more than $320 million in settlements from insurance companies that defrauded elderly Californians and people with disabilities. As president, she will continue to fight. If she would have been elected, Kamala will prosecute opiate makers profiting from the health crisis they've helped cause, and allow her Secretary of Health and Human Services to negotiate for cheaper prescription prices. Now, I've heard other candidates mention about, lowering the prescription prices and negotiating with Canada to get their drugs from Canada down to here. So, nothing that she's proposing right here is too different from others that are running. Now, this is what I wanted to hear more of her, but unfortunately, I didn't hear nothing. Okay, see, she mentions Canada as well. Okay, this is interesting. Now, my thing is this: I would still allow them to have a little slight profit margin, because what you don't want to do is then they'll turn around and start decreasing the amount of drugs that they produce, because you can't force them to produce the drugs as private companies. So what will happen is the prices will increase for the name brand drugs by default if you allow for it to be penalized too much. So I will allow for a slight profit margin to still be there but not at a rate that is, that you can't fathom. Like, nobody should be paying $1,400 for insulin. Now, however, I think insulin would, let's say if insulin costs like $50 to make, let's say at a price quota of that, they are able to make up to 3 times the amount of what it costs to produce the drug. That way, there's still a profit incentive there. And because I understand from the business side of it, I can understand from the capitalist side of it that there needs to be some money incentive for entrepreneurs who are in the pharmaceutical industry to make money. However, you don't want it to be to a level where it's corrupted, where now you're making it where the average person cannot afford the drug. So a good middle ground of that is make it where it's a cap where they can't charge no more than 3 to 5 times the cost of what it costs to make said drug. So if insulin costs $50 to make, the maximum that you can charge is $250. That way you no longer have the $1,500 for insulin, and then the insulin is still very affordable for the most part overall. That's what I would do instead. That way it would decrease the chances of them slowing down on the production of drug costs. Because if you make it where if you tax them at 100% and there's no profit motive at all, then how is they going to keep themselves afloat if they're just making at profit? Because you got to think about it. Shouldn't there be a profit at least for them to be able to maintain, the lights and to pay the staff and stuff like that? Like, how are they going to do it if they're just breaking even on the cost? So they got to factor all that in as well. They can't just factor in the cost that it takes to make the drug, but the cost for it to, to pay off the staff members and everything else, the marketers and so forth. So that's why I say you should still have it where there can be a 300 to 500% maximum return of profit that they can make. That way that's enough to pay off the staff members and everything else, and they can see a nice little profit, but no longer making millions upon millions of millions of dollars at millions of people's health expense. So that's the way that I would have did it. But then she goes to say combat the black maternal mortality crisis. The United States is one of only 13 countries where the rate of maternal mortality is worse now than it was 25 years ago. Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die in pregnancy. Black women are also twice as likely to suffer from life-threatening pregnancy complications. Kamala knows that persistent biases in our healthcare system have perpetuated the health crisis. That's why she will fight to pass her maternity mortality bill so black women are taken seriously at the doctor, clinic, or hospital. Kamala will establish training for healthcare providers and programs on implicit bias and judgment or behavior resulting from implicit in attitudes and stereotypes to deliver black women the culturally competent care and resources they need. And then it goes on to say Kamala will also help states implement pregnancy medical home PMH projects, which are designed to deliver integrated health services into maternity care that can further reduce adverse maternal health outcomes. And that is definitely neat, because when you have the highest touring entertainer, black entertainer in the history of music, that nearly died on the operating table, Beyonce, who they now saying is the most awarded black female act of all time. Now, I'm not sure on that. They said she now has 662 awards. I thought she was still in the 500, but y'all, the fellow Beehive said she's now at 662 awards. But even with that, surpassing Whitney Houston, she still faces the same levels of bias. So this is not, this is just a poor person problem. You can be Beyonce and worth for $500 million and still face the same biases on the operating table. You can be the highest paid female athlete and still face this same level of atrocity as a black woman. Serena Williams was deemed the highest paid female athlete and she faced the same thing. Who else? Kenya Moore. She is the top 3 highest paid housewife on Real Housewives of Atlanta, and she faced the same thing. So that's 3 levels of high income, from Kenya Moore being worth about, $1 million, Serena Williams being worth 150 million, and Beyonce worth 500 million. So it don't matter where you fall on the tax bracket. You can be lower than them three women, you can be higher than them three women, and you will still face the same thing. So there should be some changes in regards to the way that black women are seen in the hospital. So I'm definitely here for Kamala on that, and I hope somebody picks up this policy from her platform and add it to theirs. So next it goes into invest in health disparities research. To fully achieve health equality, we must comprehensively understand the causes and scope of the health disparities that disproportionately affect black Americans and ways to effectively eliminate them. Kamala knows the rigorous scientific research will guide private and public decision making, so we direct resources to where they are most needed. That's why she'll commit to increasing the grant funding capacity of the National Institute of Minority Health and Health Disparities, NIMHG for short, an institute at the National Institutes of Health that leads scientists' research to support Americans burdened by health disparities through grants advancing health equality, enhancing the diversity of the scientific workforce. Okay. Then she had champion environmental justice. Kamala knows that health justice and environmental justice go hand in hand. Low-income communities and communities of color should shoulder a greater burden of toxic air and unclean drinking water, and the resultant health impacts that white and wealthy communities. Race bears the strongest relationship to serious violations and ineffective enforcement of drinking water. Majority black communities like Flint, Michigan, Newark, New Jersey are disproportionately vulnerable to health and environmental harms of contaminated water systems. Honey, they might as well add Atlanta, Georgia, and Vietnam onto the list as well, baby. And black children are 4 times more likely to be admitted to the hospital for asthma than white children. That's why through her climate plan for the people, Kamala will declare a drinking water infrastructure emergency and invest $250 billion over 5 years to replace drinking water infrastructure, upgrade and maintain well water and septic systems, and help low-income households pay for high drinking water and wastewater utility bills. Now that one would have been interesting. Now she should have really focused more on that one. But and this is why I'm confused. Like, who in the hell was on her team? Like, this is what she should have really mentioned in about this as well. Address the inequalities created by air pollution and implement policies to decrease emissions by prioritizing meeting national air quality standards and cleaning the air in overburdened communities across the nation. That's good. But this one really separated her from everybody else. I haven't heard Bernie Sanders nor Elizabeth Warren mention this in detail like this. So everybody's mentioning about clean air and reducing the carbon emissions and everything else, reducing our carbon footprint by such and such, reducing fossil fuel, upgrading to solar power and hydro fuel and all of that. But this one is definitely unique right here. Now, and once again, it's sad that she never got to articulate this on the debate stage. So next, you got mitigate students' exposure to harmful pollutants by assisting school districts, particularly those servicing low-income communities and communities of color disproportionately exposed to tailpipe emissions, and replacing traditional diesel school buses with new electric buses. I've heard several of the candidates mention about that. I think I've heard Marion Williamson mention that, Andrew Yang, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. So once again, they've all mentioned this, but this is the only one that's unique to her. So she should have been focusing on the ones that her policies that separate hers from everybody else and really hone in on that. But going down lower, it says bolster the Environmental Protection Agency. Kamala will make the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has the resources it needs to fight air, water, industrial pollutions in marginalized communities that way they shall increase investments in EPA offices of environmental injustice. And then it goes to describe what it would do as such. Then it goes down to giving a description of provide additional funding to clean and Superfund Brownsfield sites. And then it gives a description of that in general. So overall, it was a pretty decent plan. Now, once again, it's something that affects everybody overall, but it really did focus on low-income black, areas that are most prevalent to these issues. So in a way, it was somewhat directed towards black people, especially the mortality rate. Now, that was something that was very direct. In addition to replacing the pipes in certain areas, and she mentioned predominantly black areas, so that's another point for Kamala Harris. But like I said, the fact that she added this in September of her campaign, and along with the fact that she never articulated it then, from now to the point where she dropped out, I didn't hear her mention about the pipes and stuff like that since September, when she added this on. That's why, unfortunately she did not pass through. But like I said, she still wasn't overall my darn gone pick, no way. Because once again, Marion Williamson still knocks it out the park for me on the myriad of issues, including the health issues overall. But this would have darn gone least kept Kamala in the darn gone race if she would have articulated this better. But let's now see her plan to stand up for Black America. And is that the... Okay, yeah, that's the only other one. But she does tackle on mental health care and everything else as well. But let's focus on specifically the Black America. And then, of course, I would timestamp this, y'all. Damn, Nat. I don't know where gnats come from out of thin air. It's like, soon as you get some fruits or something, they always tend to pop up. I got some plantains that I need to cook tomorrow. I'm gonna make me some plantain pancakes, but they right at the ripest. I done allowed them to turn pitch black, so I got to hurry up and go ahead and cook those. But darn gone gnats done got in my darn gone bedroom. But anyways, Kamala has fought for racial justice her entire career. Oh, okay, girl. See, if that's what you want to say, girl. Okay. She knows that we can't have a racial justice without dismantling the institutionalized injustices and bias Black Americans still face in our country, including in our economy, housing, and our educational, healthcare, and criminal justice systems. Okay, now she's looking like she's speaking a little bit of my language, because y'all know I wanted a special prosecute, and she didn't go that far. But let's see if her plan came close to mine, where I proposed that there should be a special prosecution force specifically put in place to arrest, corrupted law enforcement officials. So let's see how her plan matches up to what I propose. As president, Kamala will fight to restore truth and justice in America and build an economy that works for everyone. She will make investments that create opportunities for Black entrepreneurs to bring great ideas into the marketplace and grow the small business engine of our economy. She'll make sure that more resources go to minority-owned small businesses and low-income neighborhoods. Okay, first mistake right there, Kamala. Whenever you mention minorities, this is the strike against you, because I noticed that, and this is for every candidate, this is the co-optness that we talk about. As President, Kamala will fight to restore justice in America and build economies that work for everybody. She'll make investments for create opportunities for Black entrepreneurs. She was doing good right here. And then she said she'll make sure that more resources go to minority-owned small businesses and low-income neighborhoods. Number one, you just wiped out everything else you said before that, when you did that sentence right there. Because what happens is, when we talk about Hispanic issues throughout the whole segment, you can focus solely on Hispanics. When you talk about LGBT, my secondary group, you can focus on LGBT exclusively and don't feel the need to have to co-opt it with anything else. When you talk about disenfranchised Native Americans, you darn on can focus on a whole policy for Native Americans. All of y'all got a plan for Native Americans, and y'all do not never co-opt it with anybody else. But soon as you talk about a plan specifically for black people, time and time again, we always see you say something that co-opts us in. And that's what black people cannot stand, is when you can't give us one policy exclusively to ourselves without mentioning co-option. Because when you said now we got to share it amongst minority-owned small businesses, first we got to deal with the fact that in our black communities, we are blacklisted out of our own stores. So when you're talking about funding entrepreneurs, so are you increasing fundings for Arabians and Pakistanians? Because there are a majority of Pakistanians and Iranians that are able to get a corner store before we can as black people. So if you marginalize them and treat them equally, and they're going to make it where they can get more money, but you then don't deal with the injustice that going on with that we're black and this is our dominant neighborhood and we can't even get a store. But somebody can come from the Middle East and get a store in our neighborhoods quicker than we can. I need her to address that type of atrocity where brown skin is pitted against black skin. Because we always make this shit seems like it's just black and white. But it's also brown that gets preferential treatment over darn gone black skin. But of course, as a brown skinned woman, not a black woman, she really didn't want to focus on that though. Because she knows that she's really a majority Asian. So she really didn't want to focus on that darn gone disparity right there. Especially by Asians making 95% of the dollar to the white man compared to the black woman only making what, about 65 cents on the dollar. So economically, she already fucked up right there. But moving on. Ah, shoot, y'all. That's my darn gone Clio. I'm glad it didn't darn gone snitch on me about my darn gone dollar amount. Usually it would give me an update when I just made a deposit. So thank goodness it ain't darn gonna reveal my deposit, y'all. But back to the thing right here. She'll make sure that more resources go to minority-owned small businesses in low-income neighborhoods and that housing dollars actually go to building affordable units. And because pipelines to economic opportunity begin with education, she'll continue her lifelong commitment to HBCUs and other minority-serving institutions by making attendance to these landmark institutions debt-free for students and investing over $60 billion in programs that teach and train the next generation of leaders of color. Once again, that lead. Now, you said that this policy was specifically for black people. Now, I'm not saying that you can't darn gone mention everybody. But if you're going to mention everybody, do not darn gone name the policy exclusively for black Americans. And then throughout the whole, throughout me reading everything, you're co-opting using words such as minorities and leaders of color, which includes everybody. That includes Jewish people, that includes Middle Easterns, that includes foreign Africans, that includes West Indian folks, that includes Asian folks. It's like black people wanted to see one darn on policy from you that was directly from them. And the only thing I got out of you thus far was addressing the double standards that black women face in the hospital. That's the only direct policy I seen for you that address black people exclusively. Now, the corroded pipes and stuff, and the contaminated water in black communities, that was a good secondary, but the mortality rate, that was a direct black issue. And now you just gotten weaker and weaker, honey. We can't secure a healthy and sustainable future without standing up for low income and communities of color who shoulder a heavier burden of environmental harms and resulting health impacts than white and wealthy communities. Okay, another thing right here. Not everybody that's black is poor. Yes, we are disenfranchised, but when we talk about policies to affect the betterment of black people, that does not just include the poor black people. That includes the middle income black people as well. Because when you have an actor such as Ving Rhames, who is worth millions of dollars, get profiled at his own house, and it took the chief of police to tell the darn officers to let him go, because they was about to commit police brutality against somebody who was in his own house, that the neighbor darn said that he was trespassing. But you darn caught him in his night attire. He went through a window. He done accidentally locked himself out. And instead of allowing him to get his wallet, y'all want to have a gun pointed to his head, put him in handcuffs and all this. And y'all was going to take him all the way downtown to book him and process him. And then when his prints would have came back, you would have seen that he was telling the truth all along. So you went through all of that for nothing. That's what would have happened if it wasn't the actor Ving Rhames. Also, you had actor, not actor, but he's been in a couple movies as well. But basketball player Kobe Bryant had the N-word painted on his darn gate in a multi-million-dollar neighborhood. That wasn't addressed either. And all of a sudden, nobody didn't see anything. So when we talk about racial inequality and stuff like that, it does not just affect low income people. We also need to think about that wealthy people can get profiled and stuff too. Just like the attorney general that was in the state, she was driving in a high dollar car that had some slighted tinted windows, but it still met the state requirement. But they pulled her over and then couldn't tell her what they pulled her over from. Soon as she told them that she was the state attorney general, honey, all of a sudden their face cracked. They was making up all types of excuses and everything else. So once again, the racial profiling just does not affect low-income Americans. And I hate that she's alluding that all black people are synonymous with being low income, because the atrocity can happen to upper middle class people, to rich class people as well. Okay, then it goes on to say Kamala will also pass Medicare for all, combat the black maternal mortality crisis. So reiterating what we discussed earlier in her health plan for black Americans, protect reproductive rights, and close the boyfriend loophole to prevent dating partners convicted of domestic violence from purchasing guns. Okay, I'm a little bit confused on that one. So the domestic violence. So now that's a great area right there, because there's different levels to domestic violence. Like, okay, now Kamala, this is what's confusing me with this one. Because number one, you're saying that this is a policy that's for. Let me go back and see what this darn thing said, because I could have sworn that this shit said for black Americans, right? See, now you sinking yourself further in the hole. Kamala's plan to stand up for black America. Okay. So far we got, looping everybody in with saying leaders of color, minorities, and everybody else when you mentioning black folks. But when we talk about Hispanics, you can focus solely on Hispanic people. We talk about Medicare for all, which is nice, but it benefits everybody. So that's a right that all Americans have, not just darn exclusive to black people. So now you darn what was the point of mentioning Medicare for all when that's supposed to be for everybody anyway? So that's not exclusive to black people. And now you're talking about protect reproductive rights and close the boyfriend loophole to prevent dating partners convicted of domestic violence for purchasing guns. So what that alludes to right there, let me highlight this. So you're alluding to the fact that a majority of domestic violence is convicted by black people? Is that what we're saying? And is that a direct correlation with them dying by gunshots? Because once again, I need to see how the stats on how many partners were actually threatened by guns for you to feel like this will benefit black women specifically. Like that's really confusing me. Because when I look at the FBI stats, it actually shows that attempted murder and murder are led by white people and not black people. So I'm trying to figure out, why did you include this in here to give the false innuendo that black people are leading in attempted murder, specifically black men. And then it doesn't help that you, as a perceivable black woman, you're trying to portray this image of a black woman. So if we're treating you like a black woman, it doesn't help that you have a white husband. And now you're saying that this policy that is for the progression of black people, but then you give the innuendo that black men specifically are committing higher acts of doggone attempted murder via guns, to the point where you have to restrict gun purchases. Because if this is talking about black Americans, why is this in a black issue at all? Because once again, we know that white people lead in attempted murder and killing charges. This should have been in a whole separate plan altogether if you wanted to cater to the feminist movement. But why did you have to put this in here at the expense of the black man? And like I said, being a perceivable black woman in an interracial relationship, this does not help your cause towards doggone black people, because people already think you was going to move shifty anyways by catering to that white man. But you not being black anyways, I don't even fault you for that, because it's like an Asian woman dating a white man. Okay. It's like you're not even black to begin with, but for people who take you as black, honey, this is this the nail in the coffin right here. Like, really? And like I said, why is we doggone forbidding gun charges? Because what is stopping the boyfriend from beating the girl to death, stabbing it? There's another myriad of ways that he could go by trying to kill somebody without short of him threatening somebody and trying to kill her before. I don't know why we going to the point of gun restrictions. And also, why is this talking about boyfriend loophole as if domestic violence is only, done on to women? So now you setting yourself up to be doggone looking like a fool on a Marriott, in multiple ways. From number one, this can be perceived as demasculating the black man, to also making it seem like that women cannot be abusers as well. By this even being coined the boyfriend loophole, that automatically just excludes any women that are also committed, that have committed domestic violence. Domestic violence can go both ways, so it shouldn't have a gender term to it. It might be more likely that a man will abuse a woman than vice versa, but we should still keep those types of terminology gender neutral. Because domestic violence is wrong no matter who does it. If a woman is automatically beating up the man, and that's even worse, because when women are beating up men and committing doggone domestic violence, it is a greater chance that it will get annoyed by the cops, because the cops would laugh at rape cases that have been proposed by men. When men have accused girls of date raping them and all that, it gets annoyed. When you have celebrities such as I was about to say Kamala Harris, honey, but Cardi B doggone bragging about, when she used to be a prostitute, she used to be like Bill Cosby, slip a doggone pill in a drink, they didn't even know it. We got on Rick Ross' ass. We done convicted doggone Bill Cosby, but doggone Cardi B still doggone walking around and y'all know I can't do that doggone bird noise. But honey, it wasn't no type of backlash for her. It was just doggone normalized. So wrong is wrong no matter who the gender is. So I don't like this at all. Because then this allows the Cardi B's of the world to feel like that it should be no repercussions for them talking about this the boyfriend loophole. Honey, it should end all loopholes regardless of who's doing it. And you shouldn't darn put a darn color on it as well. And if you're going to put a color on it, put the darn color of the majority of the people who's darn committing the acts, which according to the FBI statistics is white people, not black people. So why is you trying to darn put this under a black issue, trying to act like this is benefiting black women, when a majority of the darn attempted murder attempted murders are committed by white people to darn on white people, honey. Y'all want to talk about proximity darn on crime only when it happens to black people, but we don't talk about those proximity crimes about white on white crime, which is darn on leading every time in all the damn stats. So Kamala, you can miss me with this damn bullshit, honey. Now I see why so many darn on people darn on looked at you as a damn joke. And then she goes on further to say, and Kamala will fight for end-to-end reform of our deeply flawed, biased criminal justice system, which incarcerates black Americans at more than 5 times the rate of white Americans. Okay, she finally starting to make some damn sense because, honey, you need something to turn around from that darn on bullshit that you just darn on did right there, honey. You just completely darn on demasculated the male darn on imagery with that trying to darn on allude to darn on black men being the lead causes of abusers. But then she goes on to say she'll drive an end to the era of mass incarceration and ensure that those returning from prison and jail can successfully re-enter the communities. Standing side by side with communities across the country, Kamala will work every day to right wrongs and write the next chapter of justice and prosperity for black Americans. And then she goes into her related policies, which is to close the home ownership gap. Okay, so I guess she's talking about, you know, how when it came to the latest recession back in 2008, how black homeowners suffered the most. So hopefully she mentioned that in the home ownership. Then closing the opportunity gap, making bold investments in HBCUs and black entrepreneurship. As a black entrepreneur, I'm definitely here for that. But, you know, that affects 15% of people overall when it comes to entrepreneurs. Only 15% of people overall have the entrepreneur mindset. So that really doesn't focus on the majority of black people. But, you know, it takes the minority of entrepreneurs to sustain economically the bottom 90% of us. So that would still help, you know, black Americans out in the majority anyways by focusing on building the wealth within the top people who knows how to sustain the wealth. So I give her a point for that. And then we already went over her health justice for black communities, which her strongest talking point in there was addressing the disparities that black women face in the hospital. And we mentioned that you can be Beyonce, you can be Serena Williams, you can be Kenya Moore and have millions of dollars and still name recognition, worldwide prestige, and you're still not treated the same way in the hospital that you should be treated. And that should be changed for all black women. All black women should be treated fairly. We should also be talking about funding more grants, and especially towards funding our own hospitals. That way we definitely won't have to deal with these types of doggone issues in the first place. So I wish she would have focused on talking about grants for black doctors, grants for black neurosurgeons and stuff like that. You know, doctors who specialize in certain areas, OBGYNs and all of that. Because if you're talking about mortality rates, you definitely should have been talking about a grant fund and had somebody like Dr. Jackie and them, you know, from Married to Medicine to help you out on trying to set up that. And that would have got you more in with the black community as well. And then you would have got some free TV promotion, girl. Because then you would have been down near the Real Housewives of Potomac. But since you set this shit up last minute in September, instead of way back at the beginning of the year when they was recording the shit, you see how you missed out on the opportunity? Being half-assed. See, you could have darn gone when you talked about this health justice for black communities, honey, this would have been a perfect opportunity to get you some millions of dollars in free advertisement. You could have took your ass to Real Housewives of Potomac. Darn gone Andy Cohen would have darn gone did backflips getting you up on there. Honey, a presidential candidate is going to come on to the darn gone Real Housewives of Potomac. Honey, the ratings would have went through the motherfucking roof, honey. And then that would have been an episode to show black women in a positive light. So instead of the cattiness and all of that, you know, the Housewives franchise is known to do and the Married to Medicine crew, they would have actually seen black women talking about actual black issues. We would have seen black women in power actually proposing policies to affect black women in the hospital for the better. We would have seen you down there conversing with Dr. Jackie and Dr. Simone. And is Contessa also an OBGYN? I think she's just a general practitioner. But definitely Dr. Simone and Dr. Jackie, that would have been a good moment for you to got millions of dollars in advertisements while simultaneously propelling your black agenda towards, making sure women are treated fairly in the hospitals. Honey, that would have been a 2-for-1. But once again, you didn't have marketers like me up on your darn on platform. I don't know who you had on your darn on payroll that now got you out. You was in the top 5 of the most darn on candidates. You stayed in the top 5 throughout the whole darn on run. You qualified for this month's debates, but due to the fact that your team was so slouchy, and I don't know how you picked them. They said you didn't even have no black people. And ironically, how in the hell you darn on even came up with a black agenda? Your ass not black. Your husband's not black. And then they said over 90% of your team ain't black. So who did you even converse with when you darn on came up with these darn on black policies? Because it clearly shows that you tried your best to interpretate it, but it truly takes black darn on perspectives to get an authentic policy for black people. And we can tell that you just came up with this on your own and didn't even really take the time to even converse with black people. And then your marketing team, you didn't have no black marketers on your team, such as myself, who specializes in this, who could have darn gone showed you how to get over $5 million worth of free advertisement. You darn gone now complaining about, oh, you ain't no multi-millionaire, this, that, and the third. You can't compete with the darn gone people. Honey, yet you got other people in the race still doing good that you make more money than them. Amy Klobuchar still up in that mug, and you got more money than her. Pete Buttigieg actually has the least net worth. He's only worth $200,000 damn dollars. And he's darn gone in the top 3 at the damn moment. So how in the world you trying to blame it up on millionaires buying the damn election? Girl, you need to stop it. Because that how in the hell you explain Pete Buttigieg only worth $250,000? Your ass is worth a couple million. Girl, bye. Sit all the way down and get you some humble pie. And darn gonna reflect on this is why you fucked up and this is why you didn't make it far. Hopefully whoever looks at this video that is still in the running takes a little good parts of this darn gone video and put it towards they platform, especially about black women in the hospital. So I definitely especially Cory Booker, since he's on life support, honey. Darn gone Cory Booker looking like he might drop out any damn day now. So it would be best that y'all two should darn gone team up if you trying to get back up in here. But honey, people saying behind the scenes you really trying to team up to be with Joe Biden. So is that what it really is? People saying that she really is trying to be Joe Biden's VP. But if she's truly serious about really going in on the blackness, honey, go in behind Cory Booker and tag team. And then come up with a reparations package and converse with actual black people other than darn gone Cory Booker's privileged ass who grew up with 2 IB executive parents, because just because his ass black, he missed the mark too darn gone trying to act like he grew up in the damn gone struggle bitch bye. Go get you a crowd of actual black people that darn gone boost y'all up. What you need to do is darn gone hurry up and tap darn gone Cory Booker on the shoulder and then go together. That would be the best darn gone bet. And then finally darn gone say y'all learned the error of y'all ways. And then come out with a darn gone multi-trillion-dollar reparations package for black people. If you do that, y'all two will be back in the damn race for sure. If y'all two team up, Cory Booker, and then you be the VP, and y'all come up with once again, I already got a reparations package and how y'all can go by darn gone laying it out and everything. How you go by differentiating the West Indians such as yourself from the actual black Americans such as myself. I got a whole video dedicated to it. And once again, my email will be down below if you need any more questions on it. Maybe because I'm still willing to darn gone give my darn gone services out. even though I wasn't looking favorable towards you. But if you want to reach out to me, you might change my mind. I might sing a whole different tune, because if y'all get together and y'all actually propose this policy along with what Cory Booker is offering, in addition to some reparations, we can then have a conversation. We can have a conversation. I would gladly work. And hell, you wouldn't even have to pay me. Well, just pay my travel expenses and all that. But just on behalf of black people, honey, I darn gonna be a spokesperson for y'all for the free 99. Honey, I get me some updated camera equipment. Honey, y'all just pay for me to travel. I go ahead and travel and speak to y'all. Because once again, neither one of y'all can relate to the actual black experience. You grew up as an Indian woman. And then Cory Booker grew up as a privileged light-skinned black man in a high-dollar neighborhood. Y'all need somebody such as me that can actually relate to the low-income impoverished black Americans. That can relate to the dark-skin struggle. That can relate to being discriminated against based off of the texture of my hair. You need somebody like that on your darn on payroll, honey. And like I said, you wouldn't even have to pay me no darn on cash. I do it for the free 99 just on the sake of my darn on people. So my email will be down below. I know it'd probably be a wild chance in hell that that Kamala nor Cory will probably come across this video, but on the slight chance that they do, like I said, I gave the same offer to Marion Williamson. I am up to darn on help, because anybody who's willing to help black people is a help for darn on me and my fellow people. So my information be down below. Y'all feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. Give y'all further thoughts on what y'all thought about this down below. And I will see y'all soon with more videos. Mwah.